Sunday morning. Roll this now.
This is all about ego and retaliation. This has nothing to do with good order and discipline. They could have taken my trident at any time they wanted. We've come up with more evidence that we'll be exposing next week that the Secretary of the Navy was actually meddling in my case and trying to get organizations not to support me while I was incarcerated.
So that is the man at the center of this entire complex. That's the Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher accusing military officials of retaliation against him after President Trump stepped in to restore his rank. Now a top official, the Navy Secretary, is out. Tim Parlatore is the attorney for Eddie Gallagher, my guest now. And, sir, good morning to you. A strange twist late last night. What happened?
Well, it's just the latest chapter in the saga of Eddie Gallagher, where things happen that we just never expect to happen. You know, we took this thing to trial. The Navy tried to do everything they could to put their thumb on the scale of justice. The jury saw through it. After that, they continued the retaliation. They banned him from the base. They tried to tell everybody that he was still guilty. They tried to take his trident away. They did that after the president had given him his rank back, and so the timing of it was very clear. And then we got into this crazy constitutional crisis of a civil-military relations where the Navy was defying the orders of the president and trying to say, well, we don't believe that a tweet is an actual order. And then for the past few days, it's just been a complete whirlwind of stories. You know, the Secretary of the Navy says he's going to resign. No, I never said that. And now then he goes ahead and he gets fired, but then he responds by saying he resigned. It is difficult to follow, but the former Secretary said so many things over the past week that contradict each other, and ultimately the Secretary of Defense fired him for lack of candor.
Just let me drill down on a few things. So Richard Spencer was fired because he went behind the curtain to appeal to officials at the White House. Is that the bottom line for him?
As I understand it, not only did he go behind the Secretary of Defense's back, but he also wasn't honest with him about it. And I think that that's a big part of it as well.
Was Spencer going to resign anyway, sir?
I have no idea. As Gallagher's legal team, most of our information about this we were getting from the media, same as everybody else. So I really don't know.
So
he said he was, he said he wouldn't.
Yeah, you've been on the case, what, 7, 8 months? So
yes,
Gallagher retires, he keeps his trident, and the investigation is over. Is that the summation of this case?
I hope not. I really hope not, because as much as my primary responsibility was to get him home with his full pension and not be in jail, Eddie Gallagher and I both believe that this case has exposed so many problems in the military justice system that I hope that the investigation continues.
What do you want then specifically? What does Eddie Gallagher want next then if the case isn't over?
Obviously we want him to just go quietly into retirement, but we want the Inspector General to come in and figure out exactly everything that went wrong in this case and take corrective action so that nobody else has to suffer what Eddie Gallagher suffered. We want to make the Navy better for this and make these SEAL teams better and stronger so that this type of sideshow doesn't have to happen again.
What is your allegation then as to how the Navy got it so wrong? What was going on the inside?
It was a failed investigation. They didn't interview half the witnesses that were there. They didn't consult with a medical examiner to figure out the cause of death. And then once the prosecutors got involved, Chris Chaplack saw this as just his career move, and he violated every ethical rule out there to try and get his conviction. And facts were not as important as getting that conviction. He was ultimately fired from the case. He should be facing disciplinary charges, and yet the Navy doesn't seem to be taking any accountability from him, the investigators, or anybody else. So that's what really needs to happen.
Yeah. Well, why was this case so important to the president, do you think?
I think because it really represented a lot of what's wrong with the criminal justice system and with certain segments of our military. I mean, Eddie Gallagher spent 20 years of his life fighting to defend us. He deployed 8 times. He suffered over 18 traumatic brain injuries, all to protect us. And for that, he was thrown in jail and mistreated. And really, the prosecutors were very unfair and violated all the rules. And I think that that spoke to the president about we can't let these overzealous, politically motivated prosecutors throw an American hero in jail.
There are others who may contend that down the line you're sending the wrong signal to the men and women wearing the uniform. To them you say what?
Well, I think that they're trying to paint it with too broad of a brush. President Trump took action in a select few cases. There are a lot more war crimes cases out there that he didn't take action in because those weren't worthy of action. And for those who say that Eddie Gallagher is getting off free because he got his rank back and he got his trident, don't forget, he spent how many months in jail? He had his children dragged out of the house at gunpoint. For months, his children had to visit him in jail wearing robes because he was surrounded by sex offenders, and they had to wear the robes to prevent the sex offenders from getting aroused. He has suffered tremendously. So to say that this is sending the wrong message, that he gets off easily for just being in a photo with a terrorist, I think that that's wrong. And to say that his action in these 3 cases is a wholesale pardon of war crimes, that ignores all the cases that he didn't take action in because it wasn't warranted.
Tim Parlatore, the attorney for Eddie Gallagher, saying thank you for your time. We'll see what comes next.